can come on up here. How are you?
Hey guys, how's it going? That was a longer walk than I anticipated. Sorry, that took longer than I expected.
Welcome to Chicago.
Thank you.
How are you? Are you having a good time?
I'm in Chicago, so I'm happy. I'm always happy in Chicago. Go Cubbies.
Right?
Go Cubbies.
Yeah. You have such an amazing career and such an amazing resume. I kind of want to jump around, but I just want to start with what everyone loves. Let's talk about you taking on the role of Superman. This is an iconic character that's been around, you know, for forever, it seems like. Yeah. And it must have been a little intimidating when you got the call, because I know you didn't even have to audition. They knew they wanted you, which is amazing.
Which was weird.
Yeah.
Weird.
And they what's that like? Hey, Tyler, we'd like you to play Superman.
Well, so the process really was, do you want to go in and have a meeting with Greg Berlanti? And I said, yeah, sure, I'd love to. So I did. And they didn't say anything about what it was about. And so I went in and we just kind of talked generally for about 20, 30 minutes. And then eventually Superman became the topic of conversation, obviously not by my doing. And they said, was that a conversation you'd want to have? And I said, sure, yeah, yeah, of course. So we started talking about it and just kind of, you know, spoke about what we all found personally interesting about the character and kind of, you know, how he would fit into the world that they had created with Supergirl already. So that became the conversation, and then it was maybe a few weeks later, I was actually driving back on a road trip with my brother from some national park, and they called and said, so they're offering you Superman if you want to do it. I said, yeah, I think that's
like, what?
Sounds like a fun time. Let's do it. And so I looked at my brother. I was like, so I guess I'm Superman now.
That is
it's a weird phone call. It's a weird phone call. And my brother was like, I guess so. And he said, does that mean we're stopping in Vegas? I said, yeah, I guess we'll stop in Vegas. We'll stop. We stopped and watched the basketball game at the sports book, and that was our celebration. So yeah.
That's pretty awesome. Did you revisit, I mean, obviously, like I said, it's a very iconic role. Everyone, you know, Christopher Reeves, Dean Cain, Tom Welling. Did you kind of revisit any performances, or did you just want to create like your own interpretation from the very beginning?
So it's funny. I feel like this is becoming a more well-known fact as I continue to do more cons. But the only Superman I had ever seen was Dean Cain's. From Lois and Clark. That was the one that my mom watched, and so we watched that with her. It's like I have vague memories of that. But once I knew I was doing it, there was for a second the thought of like, do I go back and watch these other things? And then like very quickly I decided like I'm not going to watch anything. I don't want to have any influence either way, either feeling like that's great, I want to try to do something like that, or I'm not so sure that's what's right, so I want to make sure I don't do that. So I just didn't watch anything, and that way it was purely so that if anybody said, well, this was too similar to this, it was like, well, I'm sorry, man, I don't know what to tell you. I've never seen it. So
well, I mean,
it's just, this is my interpretation from what's on the page, the meetings with Greg, working with the directors, working with the other actors. This is just how I see it, and it makes, for me, it's a much easier way to go into the work going, this is how I see it, this is what I believe it is, and whether it's similar or not similar to something that's been done before, ignorance is bliss in that situation, and you're not trying to do it. So just being honest to the moment and what we kind of saw with it.
Well, it's a great approach, I think, because the parameters of the character are already there and well known. So you have like a vase, and then you just fill it with the Tyler Superman.
Exactly. You kind of know the things that are constants, you know the things that are about him that just symbolically are him. And then those little areas in between the details, you kind of get to fill those out.
And it must be a little bit of, I would think, not relief, but a little less pressure that you're going on Supergirl. You know, you're a recurring character in this world, you know, of Melissa. Yeah. And is that a little bit less pressure than leading your own show as Superman?
I don't know. It's one of those things, maybe I'm just lucky enough that I've been doing this long enough now that I kind of approach work every day the same. I don't really think about, well, how much screen time is this going to be compared to who else has it, so therefore there's not as much pressure. I think it's just, you go to work, you do a scene, you work with the people you work with, you do your prep and everything, and from there it just kind of takes care of itself. So that is something I think I was definitely aware of, though, with the character. And, you know, when we did press leading up to the first time, I was always saying, you know, this is not in any way to come in and just be Superman. It's like he's there to support her. It's a supporting role. So I think in the sense that we wanted it to feel that way and have that energy, we are aware of it. But the pressure part of it, I think it was just, the same as anything else. You just come in and do your job, and as long as you do your prep and everything, it takes care of itself.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned, early in your career, you had a really prominent role in Road to Perdition, obviously with Tom Hanks.
Oh, thank you.
Which is pretty awesome. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we shot here in Chicago. Which is why Chicago's always kind of felt like a second home for me. I always loved coming back here. It was really kind of like the first big city that I lived in, because I was a kid and I worked in LA here and there, but not very much, and I lived an hour outside of it. So had never lived in a big city before, never worked in a big city before. And so, being able to walk everywhere and go to Garrett's, go to Uno's, Giordano's, and all my favorite places here. Gino's. I ate a lot of pizza. I ate a lot of pizza when I was here.
Well, you were a kid. You're allowed.
Yeah, that was the thing. They put me on a diet, actually. So no, it's okay. It's all right. I was 13. It's fine. I went through my first ever growth spurt, ever. I started that movie. I was 4'11", and I weighed 96 pounds, and I wore like a size 7.5 shoe. And then by the time we were done shooting, I was 5'3". I weighed 120 pounds, and I wore a size 9.5.
Wow.
Yeah, and they used all authentic, like, vintage clothing, and so, like, the guy with the shoes is like, dude, you're killing me, man. Like, you gotta, I'm finding these shoes, like, you've gotta stop. Because they're just trying to match them, and they just stop. So, yeah.
And what was the filming experience like for you as a young actor working with such greats?
It was a weird thing where, like, I knew who Tom Hanks was. Splash and Big were like my favorite movies when I was a kid. But I also had a little bit of that childhood ignorance and naivete where I knew it was a big deal, but I didn't quite get it. So it was nice. It was nice that I think I was aware kind of what was going on, but still young enough and naive enough to be able to just go in and not feel too intimidated. And it was just like, hey, I'm playing your son. What's up? And went up to Paul Newman at the rehearsal and was like, hi, I'm playing your grandson. And my mom's very aware of who Paul Newman is. And I knew the name, I knew the legend, but it was also just kind of like, what's up, dude? Hi.
Well,
like,
you're kind of like fearless at that age.
Yeah, and I was obviously very happy to be there. I loved acting, but still, for me at that time, baseball was more like a love in my life than acting was at that point. And so, as much as I was super happy to be there and enjoying every second of it, I was also thinking about like, what tournament am I missing this weekend? And, like, there was still that going on in my mind. So you're a kid,
You have such like the dynamic trajectory of both careers, because you easily just could have continued on with baseball.
Yeah.
And I just want to talk a little bit about, like, you fortunately have gotten to make 2 baseball movies, maybe more in the future.
Yeah.
But what was that like, sort of finally transitioning fully into acting?
Yeah, it was strange. It took me a minute. It's weird. Eventually I will want to do more projects that involve sports, and not necessarily baseball, but more just really kind of what that does to your life when it's the way I grew up in it, which is like it's every weekend from the time you're 8 years old. And so it's like that is your life. And so when it's gone, a lot of athletes talk about this at the end of their career. It's an identity crisis, because you've literally been this one thing since you were a kid, and now you're not only having to switch professions, but completely leave it behind, unless you go into a front office thing or something. But it is a weird identity thing. So it took me a while when I would meet people and they'd say, like, oh, like, what do you do? For me not to say, I'm a baseball, I used to play baseball, now I'm acting. Like, it took a minute. It was a weird transition, but it was nice to finally have one thing to focus on. I've been splitting time between the two since I was 8 years old, so it'd been a long time of kind of trying to balance those. So it was nice to have a sole focus.
Well, I look forward to you producing like some amazing sports movies in the future.
I hope so.
Because you clearly have the passion.
Yeah.
Much like the Superman character, werewolves have been around forever.
Wow. Hey.
You were in this little show.
Why are you guys clapping at that? I'm so curious.
I don't know. Something called Teen Wolf. Amazing. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the process for you getting on the show, and then we can sort of talk about the character.
Yeah, so that was actually, I stopped playing ball in 2009 in the spring, and then I had that audition towards the end of that year, and went in, read for it, got called back in to go in for another producer session, and then we did the whole screen test and everything. And that was really, it was really my first, God, I think it was my first real screen test, because I've been playing baseball, so I hadn't done pilot season and all that, you know, ever, really. And so this was actually before pilot season started. And so I did the screen test. They came and said they got the part. And so I was like, okay, great. So I still don't know what this pilot season thing is. That's nice. Yeah, we started that. We shot our little presentation thing. We went to Comic-Con in San Diego, and everybody hated us. It was great. It was awesome. Nobody wanted us to do this show. and then the first season came out, and it had a good reception, and people kind of dug it. So the next year going to Comic-Con was, I always kind of point to as like one of the special moments of being on that show was going to the second time that we did it, and a completely different reception. I mean, there's like a packed house. Everybody was standing around the edges and going crazy, and so it was cool. It was just like, it was a cool moment of like, oh wow, like we not only created something, but we created something that people were kind of against to begin with, and now have really embraced. So that was cool.
Well, it was a different twist than the movie, which I think a lot of people, you know, obviously it's based loosely, or, you know, the storyline, but it had that sort of darker, you know, edgy, if you will, take. So I think it surprised everyone. It
did. We actually, I'll never forget this. We had a guy in the first one. We showed our presentation, and then some guy came up in the aisle and asked a question. He's like, I don't understand. Like, why do you have to call it Teen Wolf? Like, why can't you just call it, you know, like teenage werewolves?
You're like, that's an interesting concept.
And it was so funny, because whoever answered the question gave a very eloquent answer, and then we all got backstage, and I forget who it was, but like the real answer is because that title sucks. Like, because Teenage Werewolves sucks as a title. And so it was just funny, but just everybody kind of threw everything at it. But yeah, I think once they saw that the tone was different, it was a completely reimagining of that thing, and obviously, you know, just it's a business. It's a known title. It's taking something, it's reimagining it and putting something new on it. And so I think we were proud of being able to change some minds. It was cool.
What do you look for at this point in your career in a character? Like, what attracts you to a role or a project even?
You know, it's weird. Right now, I'm like, characters are obviously still important. I think the overall story maybe is a little bit more important right now, and the people that are involved. You know, it's a crazy thing. I remember when I left the show, and, you know, some people were upset. I'm sorry, I'm mad. But, you know, they're upset, and you think if a season of a show, let's say it's, you know, 10 episodes, that's 45 minutes an episode. That's about 7.5 hours of footage that you miss out that person being in, if they're in every single minute. That's also 6 months of somebody's life in shooting. And so you come to find the more and more I think you do this, that projects are really great, but the only thing that you really get to take with you is the experience you have on each set. So the people become more important, I think. So, you know, being able to say, hey, I like working with you, you're good people, I like why you do what you do, let's find some more stuff to work on. That's really kind of what I look for now. People that are just like-minded, want to tell stories that, you know, feel like important stories to tell, and do it the right way. Those are the kind of the things I look for now.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to open it up to questions. There's a mic over here if you haven't been in this room before, so head on that way. And while they get themselves organized, obviously everyone in here loves you, is passionate about, you know, Superman, Supergirl, and Teen Wolf. What do you geek out about? What do you really like? Is there a certain type of literature, music, a genre of television or film?
Game of Thrones. Can't wait, so close.
April 14th.
So close, I know, I got it bookmarked, I can't wait.
All right, so who do you think is gonna be on the Iron Throne at the end? I gotta ask. Yeah, I'm hearing Sansa, of course we love Sansa.
Cersei. I'm just saying, okay, first of all, like, I don't want to believe that at all, and I don't really, but if you do want to look at Game of Thrones' track record, if they wanted to really end this show in the most Game of Thrones way, everybody would die except for Cersei, and we would all be sitting here going, really? Really? The only thing is we don't have like another season for them to then redeem her, so I don't know. It's just a thought. It's
You're probably not alone in that thought, but I guess we'll have to wait and see.
I really hope I'm wrong.
Hi.
Hi, I was wondering if the cast of Teen Wolf had to stick to the script or if you could improvise at all.
The whole thing was improv.
It's kind of shocking.
No, a lot of it was sticking to the script because there's a lot of exposition in that you've got to make sure that you are telling the story, and there's a lot of details that you have to get across. There are times and places where we would, be able to go and ask, like, hey guys, we had an idea, do you mind if we try it? And if we had time, that's the other thing with TV. TV is tough just because you're trying to get so much done in such a small amount of time that to continually try different things, at a certain point they go, wait, we didn't do anything the same twice. And so now when we go to edit this, it's not gonna make any sense. But if there was an idea that was just kind of like a funny joke or something every once in a while, we'd have a chance to do it if we had a little extra time. So here and there's bits and pieces.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Tyler.
Hi.
So you already kind of answered part of my question because I knew you were a Game of Thrones fan. My real question is, how is it working with Maisie Williams in Then Came You?
Oh, who was the second one?
That was the question. How was it working with Maisie?
Oh, in Then Came You.
In
Gotcha,
Then Came
gotcha.
You, yeah.
I thought you said someone's name and I was like, wait, who, how do I not know this person from Game of Thrones? No, working with Maisie was great. She's such a sweetheart, and she was so lovely in that role. I only got to do a couple scenes directly with her, but just those few scenes, it was really, really a treat to work with everybody in that cast. That was a really special cast. So,
Great movie.
It was a lot of fun, and yeah, I hope she makes it out alive.
I know. She's such a great character too.
Yeah. No spoilers, I swear to God, by the way. Somebody tells me a spoiler.
There's only speculation.
Yep. No, someone's gonna do it. I had somebody tell me the ending of Breaking Bad the night before I watched it.
Why?
I still love him. It's okay. It's all right. It's not his fault. It is his fault, but it's not. It's okay. It's all right.
Who was
Thank
it?
you.
Do we know them?
I would not do that to him. I would not do that to him.
Hi, Tyler.
Yes.
Hi.
It was Melissa.
So my question is, how would your character Clark Kent react to your other character Derek Hale if they ever met each other?
Well,
With the patience of a saint. Yeah, I mean, I can honestly just see Clark just so trying to get Derek to see the silver lining in any situation. And Derek just not making that easy for him at all. Yeah, that's really it. I just see them walking together and I just see Clark trying to make the situation better and Derek not having any of it. Yeah. I'm very, very much in the same way that Styles tried to do that and failed so many times. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Do you collect anything, and have you taken anything home from set?
Yes, definitely taking things home from set. I'm not going to say what they are because then that department will call me and ask for it. But I've taken things from set. Usually I get it approved. I don't have the suit. I wish. But collect, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I collected baseball cards like crazy when I was a kid. Always collected baseball cards. Honestly, the reason I got into acting so I could buy my own baseball cards and buy video games when I was 7 years old. That's why I wanted to do it. It's my motives have changed. It's not, but yeah, so baseball cards were a big one. I went into I had Pogs. I had Pokemon cards. That was my first business. My first business as an entrepreneur was buying boxes of the fossil decks because it's the only thing you could reserve. You had to sit in the 3-hour line to get a pack of fossil cards. But if you bought a box, you could just walk to the front and pay for it and take them. So I would get 3 boxes at a time with the money that I made from my acting. And then I would go back to my hometown street on the cul-de-sac and I would sell them for double the price to the kids on the street. That's how I made my money back. Yeah. I'd usually sell enough to where I got my money back, and then I'd open the other box and a half. And that's what I would do.
Thank you. That's awesome. Do you still have your collections? Not that you collect
I
anymore,
do.
but you still have
My
them?
parents have been like cleaning out their storage sheds, and so like they just gave us everything they've held for us forever. So I've got like baby stuff, all the Pokemon cards, the Pogs. I mean, everything that I was just like, oh wow, you guys still have this? That's crazy. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi. I'll keep it brief, but I want to start by saying thank you for being my alpha and my Superman.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you.
And is there any villain from Teen Wolf, like maybe the Beast of Gévaudan, that you would have loved your Superman to take a crack at?
Why'd you have to pick the answer? Why'd you have to?
No, I mean, that's
You
my...
gave me the answer.
That's my fanfic. I'm asking for yours.
Dude, I mean, honestly, like, now that you put that out there, I can't see another matchup. Like, that kind of sounds awesome. Yeah, because I picture that taking place in France. Should be kind of cool. Down with that. That'd be fun.
Thank you.
Let's go with that matchup, yeah.
Thank you. That was a great question and answer.
And answer, yeah.
Hi, Tyler.
How's it going, man?
First of all, I just want to say you're one of my favorite Superman actors. You reminded me why I love that character after the terrible taste that was Snyder's Superman, so thank you
man.
for
Oh,
that.
thank you. Appreciate it.
And really, the only question I have for you is, I know you said you didn't really watch a lot of other Superman stuff besides Lois and Clark.
Yeah.
But were you ever like, did you ever want to like try to read one of the comic books from Superman, like the famous Superman stories, or were you just like, I'm gonna wing it?
I did, honestly, because, again, things move fast in TV. I binged all of the Supergirl stuff. I watched the show to get a kind of more of a sense of that tone. I did a lot of like Wikipedia diving. I did a lot of like things that were more.
That's how you do it.
Yeah. Instead of like going into the stories, because I wanted to make sure that as far as story went, I focused on the one that we were telling on the show. I made sure that when I was on set, if there was something that I thought maybe has something to do with a comic or a previous version, I made sure to ask a producer, like, hey, do I need to know anything more than my take on this, which is this? And they would say yes or no. So yeah, I mean, I'd like to say that I read a lot of comics growing up, but when I was growing up, you know, like I said, I was playing baseball year round when I was 7, and then I started the acting thing, and then I was doing independent study and public school. So it was just, there's a lot going on. So I didn't ever get to read as much of those as I wanted to. But
I don't know if you never heard of it, but long before you were casted as Superman, there was a rumor that you were possibly going to be the next Batman. And I would have.
I remember that.
I would have said, well, that would be cool because he's on T-Wolf, and then all of a sudden, Superman.
Yeah.
I mean, that's better, I guess.
It was a quick switch.
Thank you, though. By the
I
way.
get to smile more in this one, I think. So
Definitely,
yeah.
that's an improvement. More than Henry Cavill did.
Thank you. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Do you have any most embarrassing moments from filming Teen Wolf that you can remember?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. What was the funniest
Yeah.
one? Can you tell us?
I don't know if anybody here, somebody here has probably heard this before, but we were shooting an episode, and Jill Wagner, who played Kate Argent, I had just been told was coming back to do a few episodes, and I was like, oh great, that's awesome. So I went into work one day, and I went into the hair makeup trailer, and I was throwing some stuff in my hair, and so it had like this goop on my hands, and I looked down at the other end, and I was like, oh, Jill's here. Oh, cool, I haven't seen her yet. So like I ran over and went, mwah! I gave her a huge kiss on the cheek, and then she turned, and I was like, you're not Jill. You're not Jill. Person I've never met before. I don't know you. Who are you? Hi. And it was Shelley Hennig, and she was like, well, that's the nicest welcome I've had this whole time. And I was like, completely just flushed red, beet red. I was like, I'm gonna go outside because I need to, and then I'll come back in here and try this again with just like the nice to meet you, how are you? That was my most embarrassing moment. Like, actually one of like top embarrassing moments, like just overall, because I was so confident that it was Jill. And it was one of those, I haven't seen you in a long time, and we're really good friends, mwah, on the cheek. And then we've never met before. I don't know your name, you don't know me. This is great.
Did you ever
Can't
find
wait to
Jill
work with
after
you.
that? Did you ever find Jill after that?
I eventually found Jill, yeah. I made sure that it was her before I went over to say hello, yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Hi.
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 So my question is, what is your favorite memory on set while filming a TV show or movie, and why?
Ooh, that's
man.
a tough one because there's so many to pick from.
Yeah, you know what? I will say this. I usually want to answer like this because it's like a serious answer, but it's I try to at least give you a good laugh. But really, probably like one of the coolest moments was when we were shooting Road to Perdition. There was the scene at the end of the film. If you've seen the film, it's a very sad scene at the end of it. And when we were shooting that, the first couple times we did it, it wasn't just quite getting there. And so the director took me aside, and part of being a great director, knowing how to speak to each individual actor and knowing what will get out of them what you need. He knew I was a sports guy, and he knew I was more of a negatively motivated person than a positively motivated person. And so he gave me a little pep talk, which is that like I needed to figure this out. And so I did, and for the rest of the day, I kind of stayed to myself. I didn't talk to anybody. It was a really long day, and at the end of it, you know, Mr. Hanks gave me a huge hug and said, well done. A bunch of the ADs and everybody did. And then the director actually ran off of set when we were walking out to come over and say, like, great job, and gave me a hug. So, like, that was a cool moment. I always, like, for whatever reason, I always remember that as, like, a really special thing of, you know, him taking the time to leave the set to come over and say, good job. So that was cool. That one's, like, I was 13 when that happened, and it's still, like, very vivid in my mind. So I would say that was probably one of the better ones.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
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 So first, I just want to say that I've been a fan of Supergirl since the beginning, and when I heard there was a Superman, I started to get really upset because it's
Sorry.
No, it's cool because it's such a a girl power show.
Yeah.
And then I saw it was you, and you did a really great job, and you still do a really great job to kind
Thank
of
you.
respect that it's not Superman, but you still have all the same strength. Like, you could have your own show if you wanted to. Like, it's definitely there, and I appreciate it a lot, so thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I saw a rumor on the internet that Supergirl...
It's true.
Okay. Well then, so if Supergirl does get canceled, I know,
No.
I'm sorry.
What are you doing?
I know, but the hope, right? Batwoman, because Constantine got canceled, and now he's on Legends of Tomorrow. What do you think? Are there any talks? Are there any crossover ideas? Or what do you want to do?
Crossover is like the Elseworlds one we just did?
No, like how Constantine's on Legends of Tomorrow now.
Yes.
Like, where do we put Supergirl if something happened to the show?
Well, I can tell you that after this next fall, CW has an open spot. So maybe Superman?
Man, they've had those rumors out there since like the first or second episode that I did. But who knows? I don't know. I think those are decisions that are made by a lot of people who
What
don't
would
talk to
you
me
like?
or tell me anything. So who knows? I hope Supergirl stays around. You know, it's great people up there. The cast is lovely. The crew is lovely. So I hope everybody supports it enough to keep it going. Because I think it's an important show. I think it's a really important show, and especially it's a special opportunity when you have a character like that leading a show like that, and you have an actress like Melissa playing that character. Because rarely do you get someone with that much integrity and who's actually that high of character as a person to play a role like that. Who can be that role model and that example, which the character is supposed to be. It's pretty special when you can get an actress who can kind of live up to that, and Melissa is that, so I hope it sticks around.
So what would you like to happen?
I'm sure he would love to.
In the show?
If anything happened, where would you want it to go? Would you want it to be a Legends thing? Would you want it to be a Superman show?
Well,
Honestly, I don't even know how they've done that with the incorporating of it, but as long as they keep her around, I'm good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, Tyler.
Hello.
So my question for you is, obviously a character like Derek Hale is very different than a character like Superman, just in terms of like overall demeanor and how they approach things. So is there anything you have to do as an actor to kind of get into the headspace of those characters differently, or get yourself in the mood to like accurately play that role?
Yeah. Number one is smile less, smile more. Those are two pretty distinct differences between the two of them. But Yeah, I think just, you always gotta, anytime you revisit a character, you always have to remember what the I'm not to use a Teen Wolf phrase, but what the anchors of that character are. So like, what are the things that, inherently, where does this person come from? Where do their thoughts come from? Where do their feelings come from? What are their perceptions? Like, what are their innate perceptions of things and the people around them? So I actually find that if you focus more on the people and characters surrounding them, it's easier than it is if you just constantly look inwards. That helps. I'm trying to remember, my acting coach told me that once, that I used to work with. He's a great coach, and he always said if you allow yourself to think about how the person in the room or in the scene with you makes your character feel, it'll tell you a lot more about your character than actually just figuring out who your character is. And it's really true. If you think about it, you have certain friends that for whatever reason bring out different parts of your personality. You feel different in a room with just that person as opposed to another friend. It's a really important lesson that I took as far as not always feeling like you have to create everything. I think you find who that person is and then allow the people around them to inform you how they're actually feeling because of the people with them. So yeah, just have to make sure you remind yourself of those things and go from there.
Cool, thanks.
Thank you. When you're approaching a character that doesn't have such a rich origin story like Superman, how do you approach, a completely fictional character that has no past?
I find it helpful to find a past that has to do with the script. Some people do a deeper dive into that, and sometimes I feel like it's necessary, sometimes not always. There's different trains of thoughts of that. There's people that think you need to know every single thing about them, but there's other people that say, like, if it's never in the script and they never deal with it, then you can have it if you want, but really no one's ever going to see it. So there's another great example. My coach always used to say there was a really, really famous scene. It was an older film with an actress, and it was like a very prominent scene in the movie where she's like on the bow of a ship. It's not Titanic. She's like on the bow of the ship and she's looking out, and she just has this look across her face that's so deep, and you can only imagine what she's thinking. And so she did a press interview, and someone said, "What were you thinking?" And it's just so profound, this look that you have. And she's like, "I was thinking about what I was going to have for lunch." And you know what I mean? So it's like, it's one of those things. I think you kind of look at the script and you look at each scene and go, what do I need to know here? And if you feel like you need more information, then keep diving. But again, I think looking at other people around you, dynamics, character dynamics, I think with Everybody Wants Some, I've actually never had a character where that character ended up being shaped more by the people around me than by anything that I did. It was more us doing rehearsals for so long and being like, oh, he's doing that. Oh, okay. Well, how does my guy feel about that? He doesn't really like that very much, or he loves that guy because he always acts like this. So you kind of start to get a feel of who your character is just based on their perception of other people. And so that was a really cool learning lesson. And so I try to find that as well. Same thing, going into, instead of just my history, it's like, what's my history with this person? So yeah.
Just like in life.
Just like in life, yep.
Hi.
Hi, okay, so I wanted to ask, what's your favorite line that either you said or line in general from Supergirl?
From Teen Wolf?
Supergirl.
From Supergirl. Favorite line from Supergirl. Actually, the one I had the most fun with, I think it was the first episode, actually. And I think when he was like, if the bullets don't work, why the punching? Never understood that. For whatever reason, I love that line. I thought it was so fun because it's so true. It's like, you see that all the time. You see like the bullets, check the gun, it's not working, I'm gonna hit you now. It's like, why? What are we doing? Just put your hands out like this and we'll call it a day. It's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. I'm just wondering if you could talk about your approach to playing a real-life person like you did in Bigger versus completely fictional characters, and what research you might do that between the different types of characters that you've played recently.
Definitely a different process. Definitely a different process. I mean, you have to really look at, I mean, you're playing a real person. You want to, there's a lot of creative calls, conversations with the producers and directors. Like, are we telling this guy's story, or are we showing who this guy was? With Bigger, that was a back and forth for a while, just because anybody who did see it, the voice is distinct and unique. And if you watch any videos of him when he has his workout videos and stuff, like, he's got a crazy voice. It's a crazy voice. And so, I had conversations with the director and producers many times, like, it's going to be a lot of that for 90 minutes. If you guys are we just telling the story? And we decided that, it's a big part of this guy's journey was, where he came from, feeling and sounding like an outsider. So we felt it important to go ahead and do it. I would have liked to have had a little bit more time. There's independent films, so you get 3.5 weeks to put on as much weight as you can and learn a dialect you've never done before and do all these things. But it was a great challenge, and so I liked it. But yeah, there's definitely a deeper dive into, their past, again, relationships and what those are like, what his relationship with his brother was like, and at a certain point, you can have creative license, but if you are telling someone's story, there's a different responsibility to getting some things right. And that's the only time I'll say that I like when you're doing anything fictional to stay away from the idea of right and wrong. I think it kind of kills creativity to say this is the right way to go, this is the wrong way to go. It's just a different way to go. And sometimes people like it more or like it less. It doesn't make it right or wrong. But with real characters, with characters based off of real life people, there's a different responsibility that comes with it. So it's a little bit more of a deep dive as far as making sure you have all the information you need.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have worked just as, moved back and forth seamlessly between film and television. And I'm wondering, with television, is it harder throughout the seasons and the years to some extent to keep the character fresh and alive and discovering things versus film where you have the entire arc of the character when you start the movie?
I mean, sure. I think you'd be hard pressed to find anybody who works in TV for multiple years on a show with the same character and says that at some point it doesn't feel as fresh anymore. Just because no matter what, if you're coming onto the set for the 5th year in a row playing the same character, you can look at certain scenes and be like, I know exactly how this character plays this scene because you've done it a lot. I got lucky with Teen Wolf. The writers gave me kind of new stuff to play with every year. I had really, at least I always felt, really interesting new character arcs to go through. With where Derek started season 1, just angst, just revenge driven. I hate everyone and trust no one. To this kind of very zen, like, I accept my place in the world and I'm here to serve in whatever way I can. That was a really fun transition to make. But yeah, it's definitely one of those things you hope that the writers will give you things to play with that do make it new each season. And you try as much as you can to throw things in there, and if they like it, then great. And if they're like, don't do that, like, okay.
Hi.
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 I know Grant Gustin is a huge Superman fan.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if when you finally got to have scenes with him, what was that like working with him, and did he like fanboy at you or anything?
Yeah, he did. And I can throw him under the bus because I think he's already thrown himself under it. But yeah, there was definitely some fanboy for sure when I was working with Grant. I mean, the first time that we worked together was when I was in the black suit. And so he found that cool. But then we did the scene at the Kent farm where I say a friend and do the whole shirt thing. And it was actually really funny because he did almost the exact same thing that Dylan O'Brien did. It was almost the same noise. It was just a completely different scenario. But when we were shooting a scene in Teen Wolf, but I did the shirt thing, and I just heard Grant go, It was so funny. It was so, like, thank God the camera was pushing in on the chest, because as soon as he did that, I just lost. I held steady here, but I started losing my mind. Oh my God, it was so funny. But yeah, I mean, it was a blast. It was a real treat to be able to go to the Flash and Arrow sets and work with those guys. I mean, honestly, man, it's such a treat to go up there. The crews on all those sets, the cast on all those sets, they're so much fun. I had a real special time this time.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
First of all, I love you
Thank you.
so much. And Derek was my favorite character in Teen Wolf, so I just have to ask you, what do you miss most about that TV show?
Everything. Oh man. Honestly, it's so weird. I always say this, and I try to keep this in mind anytime I find myself in these situations now. Usually, like, the longest nights, the nights where you're sitting there going like, oh my God, make this end. I want to go home. I'm so tired. It's 7 in the morning. We've been here for 16 hours. Those are actually the nights I kind of miss the most. Just because, you know, you go through a day that's kind of like an unremarkable day, and it's great. It's great. You go through your day, and it's awesome. But when you have those days that are just grind them out days, and you got to get through them and get them done, and you look back on those and go, wow, actually, it was really cool to have to do that with the people I got to do it with, because it was a really special group of people. Definitely those days and those nights, because those are the ones that we all still talk about. Like when I meet up with Posey or with Dylan or SYFY or Ian or JR, I mean anybody from the show, anytime I meet up with them, it's never like, hey, remember that day that we all shot for like 8 hours and then went home? No, it's like, oh my God, that day was hour 16 and we started slapping each other on the back of the leg just to keep each other awake. Like, that was a game that we came up with. That was a game. Season 2 finale, we were shooting, and it was like the last day, and I think we were honestly like on the 18th hour of the day. It was something crazy like that. And so we just started like sneaking up behind each other, and just if you were standing up and your hamstring was exposed, we would just slap it as hard as you could. And Daniel Sharman and I one time ran around an entire warehouse so that JR wouldn't see us. And then we both ran at him and hopped and hit both of them at the same time, and he dropped straight to the ground. And it was the best. It was like taking 10 cups of coffee. We were so happy to have crippled him for like a minute, and he's just like holding his legs on the floor. It was awesome. It was so great. And that's what kept everybody awake. That's how we stayed awake. So I honestly miss like the hardest days at work. They're always the most fun to remember.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And people don't realize the hours are crazy. I mean, especially as you get Thursday, Friday, and then going into the weekend.
Yeah.
And I mean, it is a ton of work.
Yeah, Fratter days are a real thing. Starting work at 4 p.m. on Friday and wrapping at 9 in the morning on Saturday. It's a real thing. So it's a lot of hours. I always say it's actually funny. You can always tell somebody who's visiting a set for the first time because they have a big smile when you first see them. And I'm like, oh, hey, when'd you guys get here? They're like, oh, we just got here. I'm like, I can tell. I was like, I'm going to come find you in like an hour. And so they'll be at Video Village an hour later, just like this. I'm like, how you guys doing? They're like, are you guys almost done with the scene? I was like, nope, we got another 7 hours. We're gonna do this all day. So it is crazy. It's crazy how long it takes to get like 30 seconds to actually make it onto the screen.
Absolutely. Hi.
Hey, so I kind of got like a two-part answer kind of question.
All right.
So if you had it your way on Supergirl, what DC hero or villain would you like to go either with or against, and which Marvel, if you could choose?
Which Marvel?
Marvel and DC,
Oof.
hero
Oof.
or villain.
Well, DC, I'm kind of locked in. I think I can only say Superman. I think that's kind of. What you say to go with?
Yeah, like a partner up or go against.
If Superman had to fight with someone in an alliance or against someone.
I mean, I think a Batman Superman alliance would be so cool. I think anybody who's always liked those characters, I think it'd be fun. And honestly, what I like about that is that I always find that character dynamic really, really fun. The Derek Styles dynamic, I always call it the Diego Sid combination in Ice Age. Like that whole thing. So I had to do the Diego thing with Styles as Sid for so many years. It'd kind of be fun to be Sid and have to work with a Diego. I think that'd be fun. I've always liked that dynamic. And in Marvel, man, God, I don't know.
Paul Rudd is here.
He is here. I've been told at some point to think about, maybe Wolverine. So I don't know.
All right.
I don't know. Maybe Logan. No.
I'll take it. Thank you.
Who knows? I don't know. We'll see. I think I'm kind of in a committed relationship, I think, at this point right now. So we'll see where it goes, and then down the road we'll re-examine this.
That would be really interesting, though. Like, Logan's amazing.
Oh my God! I mean, what Hugh Jackman's done with that over the years is phenomenal. Good for him.
He's
God,
amazing.
Bravo, man. That is not easy to still look like that character for as long as he's done it.
I think that's why he
Man.
said, like, he's done. He's like, I can't do it anymore.
It's crazy. That guy is a devoted man right there.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi there. So, as a fan of baseball and the supernatural, I think we all love the baseball scene in Twilight as a truly iconic scene of powers plus sports. So, were you ever kind of bummed that you never got to be part of the lacrosse games and to really have like the werewolf powers show through that? And also, what baseball position do you think that Derek would play?
So funny story, really quick.
Yeah,
When
no, please.
I got when they called me about Twilight, and it was the day that I was deciding whether or not I was going to go. I spoke with the director, and one of the things that she brought up to try to convince me to come is that there was a baseball scene in the movie. And I said, I know. I was like, but our team just got picked to go back to Omaha this year. I can't do it. So I had to say no. But it was funny because I knew that scene was there before I saw it. But I don't know. I think the sports part of it, those were long days on set. Those were long days, so I didn't really miss being involved in those necessarily. It was good to be just the guy that would like kind of peek out from the bleachers.
Just creeping.
And then disappear, because that was great. They'd call me and say, hey, we need you here. I'm like, great. I'd show up, I'd shoot for 30 seconds. They're like, all right, dude, you're out of here. I was like, great, bye guys. You guys have a good night. So I didn't mind it too much. But yeah, I think anytime you can combine sports with superpowers.
Oh, absolutely. I'm always going to be a fan of that.
It's not too bad. It's not too bad. And Derek I think Derek would have been a center fielder.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Great question. Thank you. Hi.
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 If you could be any other superhero, who would it be?
Any other superhero? Man. I think just to do like the polar opposite of the Superman thing, probably Batman. Like I said, it's those two completely contrasting characters, and I just find it really, really fascinating. I've always liked the Batman. I mean, I loved the Nolan series. I thought those movies were great. So yeah, it's just a totally, it's one who's always eternally hopeful and optimistic, and one who's a little more bleak. But doing everything he can, and so I just find it'd be a completely different thing to explore as a character. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, last question from me. I was wondering how your character felt about being called Cousin Miguel in Teen Wolf.
Well, the fact that has become a meme with Grumpy Cat, I think kind of says exactly how Derek felt about that whole situation. I think he made that pretty clear. I don't think he masked his feelings too heavily in that one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, last one from me as well. So from ab-licking torture to healing wounds through lovemaking, Derek had a lot of leading ladies. Which story arc for him of the leading ladies was your favorite?
God. I mean, let's be honest. Derek did a lot of things wrong. He did a lot of things wrong. He didn't really nail the alpha thing. Poor guy. I honestly think the one with Braden was great, just because she ended up not being a bad guy. that was nice. She ended up staying on the good side, so that was always a fun one. I really enjoyed that, and Megan's such a sweetheart. We always had so much fun working together. So I think the Braden one, it was like, oh, good. He's learning. He's learning. he's learning his lesson this time.
Thank you, because that's my favorite too.
Thank you.
And also, side note, thank you to you, Dylan, and T-Pose between Marvel Rising, Bumblebee, and Superman for basically dominating the comic book world of film and TV. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, thank you, man. Appreciate it. We'll keep doing what we can do.
Hi.
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 So, sort of weirdly coincidentally, piggyback off his question, and this could be open to any of the Hales as well. Was there anything in the plot that you wish that or a direction in a plot that you wish that the Teen Wolf producers went to? Sorry, that was such a weird.
Anything left unexplored?
Yeah, like, I mean, with the Hales or even Derek.
Like for the show being about what it was about, I feel like I got to explore quite a bit with Derek. Like I said, with TV, it's always the time. The time is always the thing that kind of ends up limiting you. So if we had had more time, the Derek Argent relationship, I thought was really cool. I thought, once Argent went through all the loss in his life, there was a lot of things that they had in common. I love that at some point they found like a common ground. So I always thought that was a really interesting one that, had we had more time, would have been really cool to dive a little deeper into. I thought, Derek and Peter, I thought there was a lot left there. I mean, we made it pretty clear, I think, what our relationship was. But I think it would have been cool, to do some more probing, by Derek, of like, why do you do this? What is it that continues to make you want to explore this dark side of things? So I think there's a lot of things there, but it's at the end of the day, I'm happy with what we got out of it. There's so many relationships that need attention in that show. So yeah, I think we got to at least kind of dabble in a few, which was nice.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And these are going to be our last two questions here. I don't see anyone else online, right? It's just you guys?
Nope.
Perfect. So kick it off.
Hi Tyler. I was wondering, I know early on in shooting Teen Wolf, you lived with Tyler Posey and Dylan O'Brien.
I did.
I want to know what that was like, because I feel like it could have been either really fun or like really annoying, or maybe both. So, yeah, what was that like?
I'll answer your question because you're a Cubs fan. You're a White Sox fan. I'm kidding. Easy, Southside, easy. I went to a Sox game when I was here. So it was awesome. It was awesome. I love Posey. I love Dylan to death. They're the biggest sweethearts in the world. I miss waking up before them every day and always hearing one of them wake up and close their door and open the bathroom door and close it, and knowing that was my cue to go hide outside of it and scare the hell out of them. That was my joy every morning. They never wised up to it. They always thought that today was the day that I slept in. Never was. Which was great.
So were you the annoying roommate then? In that
I was probably the annoying roommate. Yeah. Now that I think about it, they probably hated me. But they did. My favorite, one of my favorite stories, and I've told it now, and they don't care. Is I went home. I went home one time because I had a couple days off, and so I flew back, and I had left. I was 22, I think, when we were doing that. They were both not 21. And so I had a few bottles of wine that I had at the apartment. Oh, and so I came back, and I walked in the door, and literally, like, not even when the door wasn't even open. Like, I was just like unlocking the deadbolt. And I opened the door, and Dylan is already turning and looking at me with this. They had our PlayStation or Xbox controller in their hand. He's like, "We drank your wine." And I started laughing. I was like, "Okay, all right." They're like, "We'll give you money. You can go buy more because we can't." And I was like, "All right, great." So No, we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun, and honestly, I wish I could do that over again. And I think, second season, I think Posey and Dylan lived together again. I got my own place, and if I could go back and do it again, I probably would have got a place with them again, do another year. But it was fun.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Do you have a question? I will answer it, despite,
Go Sox, whatever.
Whoa.
Okay.
Good luck.
So, we could have that same conversation, but whatever. So, two things. The first one is sports related. So, if you could play right now any position on any team currently, what would it be?
Oh, I play shortstop for the Sox.
And that's why
Cubs.
Oh, you son of a biscuit. I was going to say, and that's why I love you, but no, whatever. Okay. So aside from that.
Come on, if I could play shortstop at Wrigley Field all the time.
All right, so I go to Cubs games too, but I root for the other team. Okay. So, and then the other one is Teen Wolf related. So when like Derek would be off doing his thing and like fact-finding mission, being sort of Sherlock Holmes, finding out all that he can, how did you imagine he was spending his days?
Derek?
Yeah. When he was just like off, oh, Derek's doing this. What was Derek doing in your mind?
I've imagined a couple of different things. And one of the ones that I think is just fun to think about is that he was actually fooling everyone the whole time. And that he was like, this is my burnt down house. But really, he has like a really sick place that he doesn't tell anybody about.
Okay, that's great.
And so he would always tell everybody, like, I gotta go find out this, I gotta go find out this. But then he just goes and like chills at the pool.
Awesome, and he has White Sox banners in that
Yeah, he's
mansion?
just hanging. Sure. He needs target practice. He needs to rip.
Oh!
So.
Okay, I'll still buy your autograph tomorrow, whatever.
There was that one, or I imagine that he's just, sitting on the porch and honestly just staring.
No.
At no one. He's like, I don't have anybody to creep out right now, so I'm just gonna stare at the tree.
That makes sense.
Plan the next place. I'm gonna like just pop out of nowhere.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A lot of plotting. Thank you.
Thank you. Tyler, thank you so much.
Thank
You've been
you.
awesome.
Thank you, guys.
You guys, have you had a good time? One more big round of applause for Tyler Hoechlin.
Thank you, guys. See you tomorrow. If not, have a good weekend.